Money, that five-letter word that can bring us great joy and can also bring stress like no other. And that's what we're going to be talking about today on the podcast: money, energy, and the importance of shifting your money mindset in ways that might surprise you. Hi, if you're new to the podcast, my name is Cheri Ruskus, and I am the host of this podcast and founder of Business Victories, which is an organization that is dedicated to the success of small business owners. Every week, we bring two mini podcast channels, I think as many as we possibly can, and as to YouTube as well, this podcast, bringing both other entrepreneur guests who are bringing their bright, shiny ideas, which we like to call bright, shiny objects. We like bright, shiny objects here on this podcast because we believe they are the lifeblood of small business. And while they get a terribly bad rap, we believe that they are the ideas, and it's just knowing how to manage your bright, shiny objects. And that's what this show is really all about. So we bring on other entrepreneurs, as well as some weeks, which this week is that week, I get behind the microphone and share with you my nearly, I hate to say it, 40 years. I don't hate to say it, actually. I'm going to take that back because I've learned a lot in 40 years of running a small business and many small businesses, a number of them, and 23 of those years at the helm here at Business Victories, not only as the founder, but as a business coach, an author. It's one of my books for those of you watching me on YouTube, right there up there on the shelf, and as a motivational speaker as well. So today, with our topic of money energy, and the importance of shifting your money mindset, I hope that we can take you to a place where money is feeling, I don't want to say more comfortable, but that you're getting your arms around it, because we got to get our arms around it. It's part of life. That's just what is true. Because money is the energy that fuels business and subsequently our lives. Without money, business simply doesn't happen. Straight and simple, yet so complex at the same time. There is such a fundamental start to money energy around having a money belief system, most especially if you own your own business. And it's one of the hardest things that I've found for entrepreneurs, people who start a business, right, who are used to getting a regular paycheck coming in, and now that ain't happening anymore. And there's all kinds of twists and turns that get money to you, and how to eliminate the points of stress that not having a strong money belief system can create. So we're going to dive into that today. Money energy also gives us the endurance, right? The muscles to get past the hurdles that will come when money doesn't arrive as expected. Yeah, it's just not that magic paycheck that automatically ends up in your checking account every couple of weeks. Doesn't work that way, but there's ways around that. So again, and it's a factor as entrepreneurs that we must face, and I've been facing for many, many years of my life and have found different ways, and I'll share that with you here today too. So, I think going back all those years ago, uh, I was so, as a young entrepreneur, I was just so naive, shall we say. And I knew that money was important. And I was scared to death when I did start my first business, but I actually managed to have positive cash flow coming in very quickly, just by chance. It wasn't something that just easily happened, but it did in my case. And then I had to learn to work with it, because it's one thing to get it going in the beginning. It's another to keep the cash flow flowing, especially if you want to grow your business. And that's kind of what, not kind of, that is what we're going to talk about here today. And I listened in the beginning to all kinds of positivity gurus and, enlightenment with Think and Grow Rich, and in reality, while Napoleon Hill's principles are very sound, and I do believe in many of them, as well as the others that I listen to, um, it doesn't always help you in the day-to-day business operations when things are going not as planned. And we wear a lot of hats in running our small businesses. And, again, in my case, in the beginning, I had no experience in running a small business. And when I was in doubt, I would just run to my bank. When I started to try to grow the business, what they told us in, college was you just go to the bank. The bank will give you the money. You do a business plan and it will all be great. And yeah, what I found that didn't really always work so well, got me into debt that I didn't necessarily need to along the way. So I worked harder. I hired a bookkeeper who I thought would help me fix things, and he didn't. Magically, that didn't happen, and it took a lot of mix of wins and losses along the way to make it work through what I found did and didn't work for my business. And through it all, I now realize that I was not always embracing the right money energy to keep the health of my business where it needed to be. And even more importantly, not only my work as an entrepreneur, but my life as a human being. Because, let's face it, we're all still human beings at the end of the day. In all areas of my life, I was raising kids. There was so much going on. And yes, my first business, I grew it to have 12 employees. But what I came to realize is that it was not what I wanted after all. Now, I gratefully was able to sell that business after 16 years at the helm there and continue on my path, only to horrifically get caught up in the dot-com bubble burst in the late 90s and find myself holding an accounts receivable for a tech company that disappeared overnight, literally. I mean, I actually came to their door and they were gone, and found myself facing bankruptcy. And I will share with you, I think I've shared it on the podcast before, way back, but I'll share it again because it's an important story of the day that I went to Denver to go to my bankruptcy hearing. I had been mortified for weeks and months before that. I mean, I just couldn't believe this had happened, right? I'd sold my company successfully. I was just getting my feet wet in the dot-com. We had a web development company. Unfortunately, I let someone get too much credit with me, and I couldn't afford it. Lessons learned along the way, which is what caused the bankruptcy. And this is right before I became a coach. Great, right? I'm getting ready to become a coach. Thought I'd do this little company, and boom, into bankruptcy I went. So I'm going to Denver to the bankruptcy hearing. And this was probably one of the biggest mindset lessons of my career. And there I was. I parked my car. I realized I was like an hour early because I was just so uptight and upset and not sure where to go and what, all was going to go on. And so I noticed in downtown Denver, there's a beautiful little church that's right there by the courthouse. And I noticed that there was a church, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to go in. I'm going to just say a little prayer. Nothing fills my soul more than sitting in a church and just calming down, right? And getting myself through the day. So as I walked up to the church, I noticed there was a line going into the church, and it was like a Tuesday morning. And I'm like, well, what the heck is a line in church at this time of day? And then I realized that the people standing in this line were standing in line for food. They didn't have food. Now, here I was, that some of my, I don't want to say luxuries in life, because it was some fundamental things in my life. Luckily, my whole family was not affected by it. And it was more personally me, not my husband. And we didn't lose our home and that kind of thing through the bankruptcy. But I realized in that moment, these people didn't even have food. Most of them didn't even have a place to live. And as I walked into that church that morning and sat there in that pew and watched the people eating their food in the pew in the warmth of the church, suddenly everything shifted for me because I realized the bankruptcy, it was a bummer, without a doubt. And I think there's an integrity that you feel with bankruptcy and all of that. But it happened. I felt it. And honestly, as moving into my world as a business coach, I realized that, and I still carry it with me all these years later. It's been 20 some years, that, I didn't die. I didn't lose my life. That money's important, but it's not that important. And I think that that's something that to think about in mindset. And I just really wanted to share that with you today because I think it's important. I think we're always afraid we'll not have enough. And I didn't have enough, but there was still another way. There was still a way to move forward with integrity. And I've carried it with me all these years. So what I thought I would share with you today to assist you in this money mindset is what I call the ABCs of money leaks. Like, how do money leaks happen? How do we not have the money we thought we were going to have, which ends up to be a money leak? And so with the time that we have here today, I'll keep an eye on the clock here because I don't want to keep you too long, but I'll try to get through all the ABCs, but I may only be able to get to the A and the B because I have one more story I want to share with you after this. I want to be sure to get to that story. But so the ABCs of money leaks. The A is to acknowledge your money mindset. Where are you right now? So as you're listening to this podcast, and if you're driving, you're driving. That's it. But if you can do somewhere and stop the podcast and start it again, as you really think through each of these factors that I'm going to share with you, just acknowledge where you're at with this piece of money mindset. Because one of the most important things is just acknowledging where you're at right now. We're all at a different phase in our businesses, in our lives, and money has different meanings. So just take a look. And after each statement, if you can write it down, I love writing things down because I think they really help us resonate with them. But even if you just think about it for a moment or two, that's great as well. So there's 7 elements here. Number 1 is this statement, and how does each of these are statements and how do they resonate with you? I'm having money worries more and more frequently. In fact, they are with me most of the time, day and into the night. So how is that? How is money, like if you wake up in the morning thinking about it and going to bed thinking about it, how much does money come into your day? One of the things that I have found works incredibly well for myself is that I call it Money Energy Mondays, where I do most of my money things on Mondays. So if I have invoicing to do, if I have bills to pay, if I have bookkeeping I need to look, checking my financials, whatever it is, maybe a bill that's gotten out of hand, I need to call that vendor, whatever. I try to do that on Monday so I don't have to mix it up into my day because money is not. I will tell you for myself, as a business owner, some people love money. My sister loves money. She loves working in money. She's an accountant, so she loves it. I'm not that way. So if you put it into that day, it can really help to keep it, in that time, so you're not worrying about it all, thinking about it all the time. Doing your budgeting for your business, all those things. There's so many pieces, and we'll talk more about it. All right. So number 2, I don't always have a lot of money worries. So now we're going to go in the opposite direction. I don't always have a lot of money worries because I've been blowing off that part of the business and only think about money when a problem arises. So is that you? You just don't think about it until it gets so bad that you have to think about it? Ask yourself that. Number three, I don't have money worries, AKA money leaks, because I take care of all aspects of money leaks on a regular basis. Again, whether it's your money energy Monday, whatever, you have a system around money and you take care of it. Number four, I find when it comes to money that overwhelm is the normal state for me, and I have lost the joy in my business because of it. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, listening to my voice right now, if I could tell you how many stories I could tell you about people who have come to me over the years, clients who have come just like they've lost all hope because they, number one, maybe started a business and really didn't know what the heck they were getting themselves into, as many of us do. They just, the thing they loved to do, they no longer love to do because money just sucked the joy right out of it. The lack of money, or how they thought money would come. And, and again, I felt it along my journey as well. And I think that's what determines the long-term and the lifelong entrepreneurs from the short-term. I hear often people say, I'm just going to go get a job. Like that's going to solve the problem. It'll solve the cash flow problem, but not the life problem of not doing what you want to do and love in your life. So, it's looking at how that works for you. Number five is I love money. Just exclaiming it. I love money. The abundance and energy that it brings into my business and subsequently into my life is awesome. How does that resonate with you? To say that out loud. I love it. I love it. All right. Number six. These are my top 2 money strengths. What are those for you? What are your top 2 money strengths that you are good at? Because we all might not be good at all of it, but we are good at certain pieces of it. And which ones of that? Give yourself credit where credit is due. Sometimes we, throw out the baby with the bathwater and say, I suck at money. It's not good. Well, go back to I love money because I am good at generating revenue. I am good at collecting bad debts. I am good at making sure that no one overcharges me. Like, what is it? What makes you good around money? And then finally, in acknowledging your money mindset of the ABCs, is saying, I am ready to create a new money belief system. Because you can't make the change until you're ready for it. So looking at that and seeing it. All right. So that gets us through the A's of the ABCs of the money leaks. Let's go to B, which is to bring strength, take that strength and bring it into your money system. And money systems have a place. One of the biggest problems with money, energy, and small business is that there's not a strong system, because here's the key in efficient businesses are ones that have good system. There's a great book out there called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. I've been recommending this book for years and years and years because it's one of those books that totally changed my life, because I realized the importance of having systems in my business. Because if you don't have the systems and you're just hodgepodge here, there, kind of anywhere, yeah, doesn't work out so good. So let's look at where you're at when it comes to money systems in your business. Again, we're going to use statements. Number one is, I find that money comes and goes, but I have no clear path or systems of how revenue comes or where and when, and then when it goes, like how is it coming and going? In other words, I'm not creating monthly financial statements or any kind of tracking system to follow the money trail. Does that sound familiar? Hope not. Number two, but it is what it is, right? The difference in making a change is admitting you've got a problem. Number two, I run the financial side of business on an Excel spreadsheet only. Not a good idea. I'll just say that for now. Number three, I only get to my accounting when it gets closer to tax time or I need more money in my checking account. This is that time of year, right? When I see so many people all of a sudden getting their books up to date, just because they have to, because tax time is just a couple of weeks away. It's closer than that now, I think. But I'm happy to say I've always gotten mine done on time. That is one thing I have not fooled around with is taxes, and get them paid on time every year. Mine are already paid 2 weeks in advance. Somehow I feel like that's, I just don't have to think about it anymore. Number 4, I use my accounting financials monthly to determine the health of my business. And there's different rules of thumb around this. And I know that I was just having some conversations about that this week and what moves I need to make. The financials and system I consistently use are, what is your financial system? Is it your P&L, your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet? I mean, and I know some people say you should go by the balance sheet. Some people say go by the P&L. But, I believe really strongly in a projected budget to kind of know whether you're on track or not on track instead of just kind of going in the dark. So what does that look like? Number 4 is I use my accounting financials monthly. Oh, I just said that. Sorry. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5 is I do or do not have clear and strong money profitability goals that I evaluate monthly, quarterly, or annually. So what is it? I use something called a money action plan with my clients. And so do you have that money action plan? Number 6, here comes that budget forecasting. I do a budget forecasting on a regular basis and take action to rectify the numbers when it's not on track. Number 7, I use a bookkeeper to either help me keep my bookkeeping current or keep me on track with my bookkeeping system, because there's so many things out there right now that can help streamline your bookkeeping. Back in the day, I'll date myself again here, but when I started using a bookkeeper, we actually did it all by hand pencil. There was those ledger forms we used, right, which were maddening. And today it's so much easier to easily get a system in place and to have that. So to look at that, have it set up, and then it's there for you to use on a regular basis. So what does that look like for you? And again, businesses that I see are failing usually have nothing set up. They're commingling funds, which is never a good idea on so many levels. And so again, so it's looking at that. A bookkeeper can be your friend. I have a CPA/accountant, so here's another level to that, who keeps me in tune with long-term investments, tax strategies, and educates me in current efficient money practices. We love our CPA. We've had him for years. And I just think you got to have a CPA. If you're in business, you got to have a CPA. There are so many tax laws and so many ins and outs. And we only talk to him once or twice a year sometimes because if we've got things going on, but always around tax time. And again, reminding us what's new, what's not, those kind of things. So get yourself a CPA or a certified accountant. Number 9 is I'm creative and bold when it comes to saving money, both spending creatively and putting it away for the future. So there's a great book out there, my buddy Mike Michalowicz with Profit First, that if you haven't read Profit First, please, my friends, do not hesitate to go get that book because it's very good and really helps you to look at different ways of setting money aside for that rainy day that we never know when it's going to come. Number 10 is that I ensure that my company is charging prices in alignment with the value that I bring to the marketplace with fair profit margins. This is another area where people can be charging too much, charging too little. How much do I really charge for my prices? I want to be competitive, so I try to keep up with my competition. But hey, I use better products, so it costs more, so I got to charge more. Like, what is it? What does that profitability picture look like for you? And finally, number 11 is I spend my time doing things that are a high payoff activity based on my value equation. So if you've never done a value equation, it's really looking at that value. What is that value that you bring? There's a whole worksheet we have around that, but looking at things like your accomplishments, what have you done in the marketplace that's really made a difference? What do you love doing? So that if you could spend more time doing that, how can you make that happen? And so just looking at your value equation and what's the value that you bring. So that is the A and the B, and I think I'm going to leave it at that. Primarily, the C is competitively planning future money growth, and that's pretty involved, and it gets into your sales and marketing because so many people do not really look at that as part of it. But getting sales and marketing, and how is that going to help you to grow your business? So what I will say is, because I would be happy to get all of this to you. If you want to reach out, in our show notes, here is our website link. If you reach out to our contact page at businessvictories.com, just put in, I want the ABC of money leaks. We will get a PDF to you and have you look at this and really analyze where you're at with all of that. All right. And as I close up here today, I thought I would share with you a story that I wrote back in my book, Victory One Moment at a Time, about something near and dear to my heart. And I think it's something to think about when you think about value and consistency, because money flow is also a consistent flow. And back when I was writing the book, I came across this picture of from my grandparents' farmhouse in a little town called Clark, Missouri. And it was a picture. The only thing that was in the picture was a picture of a pump. And let me see if I can find this here for those of you watching on YouTube. And let me just see if I can find a picture of the pump really quick as I tell you this story. But because I put the picture in the book, but that was all that was in the picture was the pump. And I brought back, like, these memories came flooding back to me. I loved my grandparents very much. And all right, here it is. For those of you on YouTube, oops, I'm going to hit the microphone here, but can you see it right there? Is the pump. If you want to head over to YouTube and check it out, you can. But there's the picture of the pump. And it's in my book, Victory One Moment at a Time, as well. But what it brought back is this memory of my grandfather, who was just such a comedian. Oh my gosh, I loved my grandfather to pieces. He was such he was a farmer from head to toe, and was always had his chewing tobacco. And he used to call me Little Raggedy Ann, is what he called me. And I was 7 years old that summer that popped into my head. And it was the last time we were all together as a family. My parents got divorced not long after that. My grandmother died, life continued on. But what I remember about that is I was fascinated with that pump. It was right outside their kitchen door, and it was just one of those manual water pumps, and they got water. And a lot of it was for the animals at that point in time, because they had running water by then. I'm not that old. They had running water in the house, but they used that for the animals and different things around. And I was fascinated. So I would always go, every time I went by it, I would try to get the water out of it. And my grandpa would say, he'd never allowed us to call him grandpa. It's so funny why he didn't, but so we called him dad. We called him Grandpa Dad. So I said, Dad, I just can't get this water out of here. And he looked at me, and I will just never forget. He's like, Raggedy Ann, you're not pumping enough. You got to keep pumping it. And I can remember to this day, it gets me a little teary-eyed actually, that his arms coming around me, and feeling that security of his arms coming around me to help me with the pumping of that pump. And to help me, he goes, you gotta keep pumping it. If you do it once or twice, it doesn't do anything. And it took us about, oh, I don't know how many pumps, but it seemed like forever with my little arms. And all of a sudden the water came out, and I'll never forget it. And then he came around and splashed the water up in my face. And I and it's funny, and really, to wrap up this conversation about money mindset, we hold so many things about money in our minds, that we've had that money story from since we were kids. And that's a positive one. Some are negative, some are positive, but that was a positive one for me, to remember that if I wanted to see that flow happen, it had to happen consistently. And it was the amount of strength that you put into it, and even someone coming to help you with it. I mean, there's so many analogies I could share with you right now about it. And that is my story of the pump. And I hope that as you think about your mindset with money, and think about, so often we come up with the negative stories, but come up with some of the positive stories about money, and what they did for you. I mean, I think about when I bought my husband a motorcycle. When I sold my business, I bought him a new Harley, and for Christmas. And that was like one of the greatest joys of my life to be able to do for him. He has done so much for our family, and to be able to do that was just huge, and such a lovely gift for me to give to him. So remember those things. Again, in that value equation, those are the important things to remember as well. So get out there and prime your pump. Money is good if we can find the place in our heart to put it and to have it. And that, my friends, is what I wanted to share with you today. And until next time, take good care.